Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Luliago podcast. In today's episode, I'm really excited to share this one with you because it is a little wild. We're going to be talking about the nervous system. Specifically, we'll be interviewing doctors Rachel and Annie from Rise Wellness. They are chiropractors that tie in and really root their practice in the nervous system. You guys know not even me, I think the wellness world itself is really leaning into the idea of the nervous system and how important it is. And this episode, they're really going to really talk about their nervous system focused approach. And what I gathered from this episode is that, oh my gosh, the body is so smart. Holy shiitake mushrooms. It is amazing. And also, it's so intertwined. And I think that regardless of if you're like, oh, I have back pain, I have neck pain, this episode is just really highlighting the fact that the nervous system is incredibly important. And I think it's a really good episode for anyone, like I said, whether you are struggling with pain now or not, or discomfort or anything like that. Like it can be anything from neck pain. We talk a lot about looking down at our phones and how that can also actually create micro traumas, or lower back pain, things like that. It's just so interesting. So I am excited to share this episode with you guys. If you have the Luli app, we do have an extended episode with an additional Q&A in there. If you don't have it, check the link in the description, give it a download. You can get a free 7-day trial and get in there and listen to it. We talk about a lot more in the Q&A, more of kind of like nervous system practices. So I would highly recommend doing that for this one. But as always, guys, if you do like this episode as you're listening, we would love if you took a moment to give it a rating or review. If you're in the app, hop over to whatever platform and just let us know what your thoughts are on the podcast. And if you're liking it, we would love to hear that. It really does a wonders for helping us continue to give you guys better and better episodes. So thank you in advance for taking the 2 seconds to do that today. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to give this channel a subscribe, hit like on this video, and leave a comment with what your biggest takeaway is. But with that, you guys, let's get into this episode. I'm a nervous system nerd, and I cannot wait to share it with you.
The spine houses central nervous system. So any chiropractor adjusting the spine is also influencing the nervous system.
Most people think of chiropractors like neck pain, back pain, maybe headache, sciatica, and it does help with all that. But like we learned early on in school that the nervous system controls everything. So like we know the philosophy of it. It's just, I think, becoming a bigger thing now, right? Like with everyone knowing about vagus nerve a little more and like, oh, this is the high stress of everything. Like people just in general know more about the nervous system. So we've been on it for a long time.
When we have people come in, they're like, I've got neck pain. They learn about the nervous system too then and see how the brain influences not only their pain, but maybe some other functional issues that are going on too. So neck pain example, if people are looking down at their phones constantly or working on computers, we can get a lot of neck pain. And a lot of that is because maybe the spine isn't in the correct position. We have micro traumas from our work, from our daily life. And those muscles are also going to be compensating to try to hold everything in place. And so that can cause a lot of pain. Then we may also have functional issues too. If we're relying so heavily on these muscles in our neck, like our traps, that can also hyperstimulate our sympathetic nervous system because that's where our fight or flight side of our nervous system lives, is like right in that area in the cervicothoracic junction in our neck. So then we're not breathing as deeply, like we're not using our diaphragm to breathe. We're using our accessory muscles to breathe, which again, just kind of hyperstimulates that fight or flight sense of our nervous system. And so that can be kind of a functional thing. Some people will also get like numbness and tingling down their arms and stuff. That's more of a functional thing that can show up with neck pain. Headaches too. That's really more of a functional thing. And people think of that as just being like pain, but that is a lot of nervous system function. If we're overwhelmed, if we're stressed, that can chronically lead to those kinds of things showing up too.
And then not sleeping
So,
well
go
would be
ahead.
a huge one. Just the not sleeping well, I was going to say, would correlate with all of that also. So, yeah.
Can you clarify the fight or flight, the parasympathetic and sympathetic, so people are on par with that? And then different things that can activate that in daily living?
Yeah. So we have two sides of our autonomic nervous system. Autonomic means all the automatic stuff that happens in our body. That sympathetic fight or flight is our defense mechanism. So that's like our stress response, right? So whether, when we're evolving, typically that's like how we're going to get away from the tiger, how we're going to get away from danger. But what's stimulating that now in our everyday lives is social media, driving to work, even just getting our kids ready for school, those kinds of things. Our parasympathetic is we call it like gas pedal and brake pedal. Gas pedal is that sympathetic, that fight or flight. The brake pedal is rest, digest. That's our like calming side of our nervous system. It's also where recovery happens, where growth happens. That's where a lot of vagal nerve stimulation comes in too. So when we're talking about like biohacking and stimulating the vagus nerve, that's that parasympathetic side of the nervous system.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. And you mentioned, like, looking down at our phones.
Yeah, honestly, the tech snack, like the looking down at our phones.
That is so scary.
Yeah, it really stimulates that sympathetic nervous system, so it kinda sends us into overdrive there, so we can get, like, neck pain, headaches, that kind of stuff. Sometimes upper digestive stuff too, because, again, that vagus nerve runs a lot of our digestion.
Mhm.
Difficulty sleeping, being having a hard time winding down, being chronically anxious or stressed, and then so that's one of the big ones that we see, especially with adults. With babies, it shows up differently. So we also see like kids and infants and stuff. So the like upper neck stuff that we see in babies, usually because of birth trauma, um, has a lot more to do with like reflux and colic and just being uncomfortable. The babies that go chronically into extension because they're so tight in their nervous systems and in their spines. So those are kind of the major things that we see in our office.
You mentioned, like, tight traps, tight muscles. I then there's more of the overwhelm, so there's can be both mental and physical stimulation?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a vicious cycle a little bit where we get that like the tight traps, the defensive like protection mode. And then again, like I said, we're using those accessory muscles to breathe. And then we're not stimulating that like parasympathetic side of our nervous system and just keeps us in that kind of defense mechanism.
And I think as we said before, like physically, but also like physically can be all your digestion, right? Like if you're stuck in fight or flight, like digestion's not going to function well. So like constipation, IBS, maybe it's diarrhea for you, or like I said, the not sleeping well, all those things are regulated by the parasympathetic. So if we're stuck in fight or flight, like that's a physical way to know also.
So not only like in the nervous system, but also like overtraining those muscles can lead to more injury too. So maybe those people who are overtraining are already like so far on that sympathetic side, they have a hard time getting into that rest digest. I mean, I would
Right.
say when we see people who are like the hyper trainers that use that as their stress relief, it's because they're like chronically in that stress cycle. So they tend to be very like high energy, but maybe high anxiety type individuals, high stress, like high functioning people, and have a hard time getting more into that parasympathetic. So then, if we're not recovering, we can be prone to more injuries, more sickness, that kind of stuff too. It'll wear down our system over time.
Yeah. I think you then have to have the conversation with those people. Like you can move your body, but move it in a different way, right? Like you can still move your body, go walk, go do something different than like putting yourself in that so stressed out state. It's not gonna benefit you well, right? Like if you're working out so hard when your body's already so stressed.
Right. Okay. We've talked about the negatives of stress. Can you talk to us about the good versus the bad?
Yeah. So, like you said, I mean, working out is like a good stress, right? I mean, there's a lot of benefits to movement, to exercise, and I would say all those things are good stress. And the thing with stress is it can be good and bad. And it depends on how well your body's able to adapt to it and how well your nervous system's able to adapt to it. Like getting pregnant, like we can consider that like that's a stress on the body, right? As your body's changing, as it's adapting, having a baby, like all of these things are also stressors, but it can be like good for your body to adapt to those things. But if we're not in an adaptable state, then it can be like really hard on the body. And I don't want to say it's bad, but like it can be tough. So rather than, I guess, saying like some stress is good and some stress is bad, if the body is in overwhelm, any stress can be overwhelming to that. Whether it's good, whether it's like working out and stuff, sometimes it can kind of put us over that edge. So if our body is in an adaptable state, if we're like able to be in good autonomic balance between that parasympathetic, sympathetic, then those stresses that we put in can be really beneficial for us. So does
Yeah,
that
or
kind of
like we
answer
talk
it?
about like yeah, like there's a time for sympathetic stress, right? There's a reason why we have it, right? Like it was there developed like when there was a tiger, right? Like okay, you got to get into that action of fight or flight or freeze, right? But if your body can adapt, you get out of it. The problem is there's in such overwhelm these days, your body can't get out of that fight or flight anymore. So it's like, yeah, stress can be good. It's good. Like, oh my gosh, there's a car gonna run into me. Oh my gosh, I got to stop real quick, right? Like, but if you can't get out of that fight or flight state, that's when the problem happens. So.
Okay. You had mentioned scans you would work with. Can you walk us through what that might look like to identify like the nervous system activation and what might be the issues?
Sure. So pain is a cue from the body, right? So like it's a symptom of something else going on. So that's really what our goal is to like dig into like, okay, what's going on in this nervous system? What's causing us to not adapt well? What's causing us to like one be in this pain? Like are these
Mhm.
muscles like overactivated? Are they supporting the spine that's like not in the right position? Um, are there other things going on functionally? So we take like a full history, try to like kind of dig up some of the stuff. So it's not just back pain usually. There's like other things going on in the body. And then when we do scans, what we're looking for is nervous system dysregulation. So one of the scans that we do is thermography. That's going to show us temperature difference. Brain should be able to regulate the temperature of our skin within a certain range. And so if it's outside of that, that's a good sign for us that there's dysregulation happening in the nervous system. So whatever input the brain's getting, we're not able to regulate things as well as we should. So it's not working as efficiently. Then we do a muscle scan. It's muscle electromyography. So this one is just looking at how the muscles are supporting the spine just in a seated position. That gives us a good tone of like, how is this nervous system tone working? Are we really overstimulated? Are we understimulated? Are our muscles not able to fire as well? And then we do heart rate variability too, which again shows us that autonomic nervous system, that fight or flight piece of it. So we can then get kind of three different views of how that nervous system's working together. So then we can teach people a lot about the nervous system and say, hey, this low back pain that you've had, it's probably due to poor core activation. It's probably due to your body's going through like after a pregnancy when you're recovering from that. It could be due to sitting at work all day. So then we can have that conversation about these are ways that you can benefit your nervous system. But then also here's the chiropractic piece of it. We need to get your body regulating. We need to get your brain able to process this information that it's going through on a day-to-day basis. And then we can help it work more efficiently from there.
What if someone is just like burnt out and like just just a human being in this world reading the news? Like, how would that show up on a scan? Does it show up on a scan?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can. Usually it's on the HRV when you see
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Okay.
Yeah.
that
Okay.
sympathetic
Or the
versus
thermography will
parasympathetic tone.
show. It will show
Yeah,
burnout too, I feel like thermography. Yeah, and it can also show like, hey, is someone medicated? Yeah, we can see all of that on a scan
How
really.
does it
Like
show that?
well, because
How?
it
This
can
is fascinating.
well, it can just tell like you can be like you take someone's history, right? And you know how stressed out they are, but then their nervous system seems really regulated. And then you're like, oh, are you on an anti-anxiety med? Like, oh, the med's doing what it's supposed to do, right? Like it is showing like your nervous system is like, in a regulated state, but you also still have all the stress going on in your life. Like if you weren't taking that, wow, would your scans be so much worse? So
Right. Okay. Oh, this is fascinating. How does that differ from a chiropractor
mhm.
who doesn't specialize in adding nervous system into it?
They'll probably most likely do X-rays, right? They're looking at your spine, like what are your
Okay.
bones doing? Is there degeneration?
Okay.
How are they misaligned? If you're going to adjust the spine, you're going to affect the nervous system. So they're still going to directly affect your nervous system. They're just not like where we see what's going on with the scan affects how we adjust, where we adjust from the nervous system point of view. So it's just different. Then maybe they'll do a lot more PT work type of thing. Every
Okay.
chiropractor is a little
Gotcha.
different.
What were the scans that you said you guys do? Can you run through those again for me?
yeah, we do thermography,
And
electromyography,
that's
and
the
then
heat
heart rate
one, right?
variability. Yeah, the thermography is looking at the temperature. So that's like showing us the dysregulation. That can also show us the burnout too. If we're in that fight or flight state, our body's also going to like have vasoconstriction, so it's going to show up cooler. So that all kind of gives us input into like what's going on in that nervous system. The electromyography is looking at like the surface electrical activity of the muscles. So then we can see, yeah, like high tone. That one comes really, we see that a lot in like I said, moms who are like postpartum or breastfeeding. We can see some low tone, usually in like low back, low thoracics. Between the shoulder blades and up in the neck, we can usually see higher tone, especially if they're breastfeeding or just like holding their baby and looking down all the time, right? We'll see more activation there. In kids with like ADHD, sometimes we'll see like super hyperactivity on those EMGs. And that's really cool as we go through care, seeing that calm down and then seeing their whole body calm down is awesome. And then the heart rate variability is that autonomic tone one.
Okay, very cool. Have
And
you
I feel like
guys
the heart rate
seen those?
variability is what, most people get with their Aura rings or their watch. Do we get it on your watch? I think a lot of people get it on your watch. So a lot of people already kind of know about heart rate variability. Ours looks at it a little differently.
Okay, very cool.
When we do our thermography, it is just like, what is the surface skin doing? If our body is in like homeostasis, meaning like it's in good autonomic balance, we're relaxed, we should have good blood flow to our skin tissues. What happens when we're stressed is we'll have more vasoconstriction there. So it'll send blood flow to our big skeletal muscles to get away from that tiger. So that's when we get more of that muscle tension and stuff too. So that's more what we're looking for is just really like the surface tissue. How is that blood flow going there?
This is so wild. I think this is why I feel like the nervous system is just such a missing piece to a lot of people's wellness journeys because we can sit here and be like, I need to eat XYZ, I need to do XYZ movement. But if you are constantly in this stress state, like
Mhm,
your body's not going to be able to function to do those things as
mhm,
well. And I know that's like, it sounds like such an easy thing to say, like, okay, de stress. But it's like, okay, well, you turn
mhm.
the TV on and that's just going to like send your stress through the roof. Like, what do you kind of I guess, what would you say to someone like that who's in more of that kind of, like, s stemming from more of the, like, just stressed out, burnt out state?
Truly. We have this conversation a lot, especially when it pertains to like kids and stuff growing up. For an adult, I mean, a lot of it is like modify how much stress you're intaking in your body. Um,
Mhm.
Take some time for deep breathing. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can do like vagal nerve stimulation at home. I mean, if that's kind of the hot thing right now, right? Like cold plunges, doing cold showers, deep breathing, ujjayi breathing, constricting your throat muscles helps stimulate vagus nerve. So whether
Mhm.
that's
What is that
humming, gargling,
ujjayi breathing?
ujjayi, that's
It's
like
that yoga breathing.
the yoga breath.
Yoga breathing. Yeah.
Can can you tell me how to do it? I wanna try it.
Yeah, sure. So it's like, Darth Vader breathing. If you're, like, fogging up a mirror, you're like yeah, it's
Like that?
constricting the muscles in your throat when you're breathing. If you go
Yeah.
to, both Rachel and I used to go do a lot of yoga, but if you do the, like, constricted through your nose, out through your mouth, that is a really good way to stimulate vagus nerve too. But you
Yeah,
can do it with
humming,
humming or
gargling.
singing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it is like what
Okay.
you
Oh
said,
my
like,
gosh.
well, you can do all these things, but they might not work if your nervous system is in a fight or flight state, and like I said, we have that conversation with people all the time. Like, sometimes we're people's last stop when they've tried everything, right? Like, "I've changed my diet, I've taken out gluten, dairy, we're not doing dyes, we're not doing sugar, we're doing this, we've been here, we've been to all these therapies, and we're stuck. We got better for a while, and now we're stuck." And it's like, yeah, the nervous system is the missing piece, as you keep saying, and we would say, like, we're a pretty easy place to go because you just have to show up. We adjust you and you go. Like, it's not homework once you get home, right? So, like, to those people you say, like, what do you do? Yeah, go find someone who can help your nervous system get into a parasympathetic state. And once you're there, your body starts learning how to regulate better. So it's not like, oh my gosh, you have to be here every other day. It's like your body's like, oh, I can get back into this state. And then add all those other things start to like help you so much more.
Yeah, and it makes them more effective too. It makes the diet changes more effective. It makes like the
Hmm.
OTPT, all those exercises more effective because then your body can accept it because you're not in that fight or flight state anymore.
Hmm.
Okay. Adjusting someone.
Hmm.
What does that look like when you are doing it through, like, a nervous system lens?
We don't do even in that cracking, popping, um, twisting. Like we said, we use the scans to kind of let us know, like, hey, where do we just
What we're doing with the adjustment is we're sending proprioceptive impulses basically through the spine. So if we're changing, like if we're cracking that joint, what that's doing is it's sending movement and proprioception impulses to the brain so that the brain can reorganize what's happening in that area. When we're using an instrument, to adjust. It's just like more specific and directed at that joint. So it's like a very specific adjustment. When we're doing more like soft tissue techniques and stuff, a lot of that is more like fascial unwinding because the nervous system works with the fascia too. So a lot more of that is like that parasympathetic tone, like relaxing, working with breath, that kind of stuff. So we're not really muscle massaging, but we can stimulate the muscles and send those same impulses through that nervous system so that the brain can kind of reorganize what's happening there.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for
Mhm.
explaining that to me. I know you guys work a lot with pregnancy, in kids. What would you say? I'm really interested in like what potentially shows up in kids because I feel like that's not something that you necessarily think about either like kids having their nervous system dysregulated
Mm,
or like going like chiropractic for kind of like
mhm,
the nervous system to kind of fix that. So like how does it show up in kids versus adults?
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what the major culprits are, I would say the
Yeah.
biggest one for kids is birth trauma. It's like the biggest
Okay.
thing
It
that we
starts
see
early.
is just like yeah, it starts early. I mean, even like if mom had a stressful or traumatic pregnancy, that can also kind of predispose that baby being born. Then the baby comes out already kind of shifted into that sympathetic state. So we saw that a lot like
Okay.
during COVID, during lockdowns and stuff,
Mhm,
moms being scared about like going to the hospital. Just that stressor alone led to more stressed out babies just because of the birth process changes, mom feeling uncomfortable because of what was going on in the world. And so
and stressed out babies, I'm
we
just gonna real quick, are colicky babies, constipated babies, reflux, a baby you just can't settle, like a baby that's stuck like this all the time. Like, a mom who's had a baby like that knows, like, what a stressed out baby is, but that's that's stressing a baby.
Yeah. And so from a neurological standpoint, I mean, really, like, what do we want babies to do? We want them to eat, sleep, and poop. That's like the neurological foundation, right? So, and then everything else builds on top of that as we're growing, as we're developing. And so there's so many like neurological like synapses that are formed in those first like weeks to months to years of life. So as we're like growing and developing, like there's so many developmental stages that are happening and so if we're already stuck in that fight or flight, in that stress response, if we have a baby that's not latching well, not pooping well, not able to sleep or self-regulate, then it kind of predisposes them like all the way through their life to be stuck in that sympathetic, that like fight or flight state. So
Mhm,
that's one of the major reasons why we see babies and why we see kids is just to like help them navigate like those first couple of things, help them sleep better, help them poop better, and help them feed better. So that they can have that neurological foundation to build on top of, which then it becomes like motor movement, right? So we want babies to be able to roll, to be able to crawl, to be able to like push up and start walking. And then we start falling. And then we have all these like another cycle of like trauma in our
mhm,
body that we need to adapt to, that we need to figure out. Then it comes to like balance and coordination and self regulation, emotional regulation. So it kind of
mhm.
like grows over time, but all of that nervous system input can again, good and bad stress, right? Like learning to walk can be good and bad stress on the body. So
Have you seen an uptick or like more awareness with kind of this like I don't want to say it's a fad because I think it's
Mhm.
like getting its moment to
Mm,
shine, but this like resurgence or like nuance of nervous system, like are people more aware of it and how it might kind of impact the body, or do you still feel like it's still relatively like not on people's like they're not making the correlation?
I think it's kind of, I mean, honestly, all over the place. We have like more and more people are understanding more of the like nervous system stuff. And so it's cool, like the conversations that people are like bringing into us. Like we have people
mhm,
that are coming in and like put on their intake form, I'm looking for nervous system regulation, or like I'm looking for like emotional regulation for my toddler. Which is awesome. Yeah, I
mhm,
think the more that we can spread that awareness, the more power people have and the more power parents have over like what are the best things for my child? Do I need to get my child medication or do we need to regulate their nervous system? And or maybe it's
mhm,
like a combination of things, but parents need to know that there's so many like resources out there for them and also like the right chronological steps for trying these things too. Like Rachel said, we're often the last stop for a lot of parents that have
mhm.
tried, everything And maybe they've had good success, maybe they've plateaued, but doing a lot of the therapies and stuff can be beneficial after starting chiropractic once again that nervous system is
Mhm,
feeling more regulated and able to take in those things. So, and a huge benefit for us too. We are like we've networked like crazy with a lot of the OTs and
mhm,
like speech paths and I mean midwives, doulas, like all over the place in the area and
mhm,
stuff too. So they know who to send to. Lactation consultants, like, they send
mm,
their kids to us so then we can work together and
mhm.
collaborate care that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Very
I'd say we see a big uptake probably in school age kiddos, right, that are having bigger troubles with emotional regulation, maybe in school, maybe at home, behavior issues. Um, I think people are realizing like, okay, maybe this is nervous system, right? Like I've tried these things. We've tried a
Mhm.
medication, like maybe it was helping, but then we had a bad side effect. Or and then when you go through their history and you talk about, oh yeah, I had a super stressful pregnancy. Oh yeah, maybe there was some birth trauma there. Well, okay, yeah, I had a colicky baby. They told me that was normal. Oh, he was constipated. They said pooping every 2 weeks was fine, or all these. They had all these things. Oh yeah, they were a toddler. They had horrible ear infections and this and that. And now we're here. We're like, okay, yeah, that's like the perfect story of like how we can get here, that we've had a dysregulated nervous system for so long. So it shows up in kids on their scans in the same way as it would an adult. Like, right, we see that dysregulation, we see them stuck in fight or flight. It's like, okay, but maybe if we could have just got them here so much earlier, we wouldn't have ended up here. So
Interesting.
When it comes to pregnancy, like, you're doing a major change in your life, there's, like, a financial burden, there's a lot of, pieces and stressors that can come in, like, if you're a working mom, and, like, am I gonna take time off? Am I gonna return to work? Like, there's so many, stressors that can come into play, and so, again, like, regulating that nervous system is gonna make for a more comfortable pregnancy, make your body more adaptable to those changes that are happening, and then also help that baby's nervous system too. Um, but there's also a big biomechanical piece to how the pelvis moves too. We practice a technique called Webster technique too, which is specifically an analysis of the pelvis, seeing how everything's moving. Because if there's torquing in the pelvis, that can lead to some constraint with the uterus and everything too. So we want to help pelvis move as much as possible so that mom can have as smooth of labor as possible. That is our goal so that we can kind of decrease the amount of birth trauma too, then as the baby's being born, and then also help with mom's recovery. So there's a lot of pieces, that nervous system regulation for sure, but that biomechanical piece is really big during pregnancy. So your body goes through such rapid changes, weight gain, change in gravity, like there's a lot that happens. And then you have this hormone called relaxin in your system that helps kind of make your joints more pliable so that things are like stretchier and more movable, but then you have a tendency towards hypermobility, which causes your muscles again to get a little tighter too because they're trying to protect your pelvis and protect things that are going on. So it's a whole game and it all happens
yeah,
within 9 months. So it's a huge change
yeah.
for bodies.
Yes, but I think
How
you're
does
right, though.
someone
People do say like, "Oh, yeah, I'm achy, but that's normal for pregnancy, right? My body's changing." And we do see people, low back pain, sciatica, they'll have pubic bone pain, they'll have round ligament pain, and we can help with all of that. But as Annie was saying, it's all just about balancing the pelvis, working on those. We work on round ligaments and their psoas muscles to make sure everything's nice and balanced, because then we get baby in a good position, so you just feel better and you usually have an easier labor delivery. So it's like, when's a good time to come in? We're biased. We'll say as soon as you know you're pregnant, right? Like it's going to benefit you. But most people show up when they start having aches and pains, honestly. Or if they had a poor pregnancy first or poor labor delivery, we'll see them their second time around and they start early then.
Okay. How does someone know whether like who they need to go to? So let's say someone is like having pain right now and they're like, "Oh, my neck or my back." How do you know if you need to go like do I need to go to PT? Do I need to go to a
Mhm.
chiropractor? Like how does one know?
I mean, honestly, you could go to either. Like if you're looking for
Okay.
pain, really, it's like what you want to do. It's just different, right? Like, you know,
Okay.
PT is going to give you a
Yeah,
bunch
and
of
what you're
exercises.
comfortable
They're
with.
going to work on the muscles. Yeah. Where we work on the spine and the nervous system. So it's just different.
In my chiropractic opinion, I would say start with a chiropractor just because if there is something going on that's kind of keeping your nervous system, keeping your spine locked in a position, and those muscles are compensating, when you're going to PT, you're kind of strengthening within that compensation. So if you can get things regulated better, then we can strengthen in a more regulated spot. So then our body is like going to heal better over time too.
And we love
Okay,
PTs.
that
We're
makes
always
sense.
like, yeah, we love to work with PTs. We don't want to do their work, so we like to do what we do.
Yeah.
And then we're like, yeah, sometimes
Well,
you
I
need
think
both.
that makes
Yeah.
that's what I think that makes sense, like, when you're kind of explaining it, like, you wanna make sure everything's regulated and in alignment so that
Hmm.
because otherwise, like, the PT wouldn't actually be as beneficial,
Hmm.
right? If you're kind of, like, all out of whack.
Right, like, we don't wanna strengthen into a malposition, right? So, like, if our
Hmm.
pelvis is torqued, if we're strengthening, then we may have, like, some muscles that are under firing, could be neurologically too. So, we wanna help balance all of that out and then strengthen it, and then work with those muscles, then work with that PT, because then it just reinforces that better position, that better nervous system alignment, that communication.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, so I think that like my big takeaway, and you can tell me if I'm that crazy, but if someone is having pain, regardless of kind of like what it is or discomfort, like if someone is at home listening to this,
Yeah.
like take inventory of like your stress, take inventory of kind of your emotional management. And I know that sounds like such boring advice, but like and then so, like, maybe that's, like, square one, okay, let's take inventory of kind of that stuff, what can I do to manage that? Or and then, like, low back pain. So, kind of, okay, let's get, like, the stress side of things in, but then, okay,
Hmm.
let's say my this is a real example for me, my low back pain, like, what might be caught, like, physically, so
Hmm.
we're kinda, like, doing, like I don't wanna say, like, the mental side of it because it also goes into,
Hmm.
like, the physical of, like, the stress and overwhelm, but then more of, like, the, okay, what, like, functions of my day might be impact this? Maybe someone, okay, I'm pregnant, so that's causing this, or for me, it's when I slouch on this couch that I'm sitting on right now and work, and, okay, maybe that's not the best thing for, like, my muscles, um, would you say kind of like make sure we have like both of those pieces versus just being like, "Oh, my low back hurts. Okay, I need to exercise more. I need to strengthen those muscles." It's like, "Okay, well there might be more things that are influencing that." Did I sum that up kind of okay?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great. I mean, we really focus on like the stress nervous system piece of it. So that is like that's our bread and butter. And like I think the pain aspect is like, everyone has different goals. Some people just want to get out of pain and don't care about like the long-term nervous system
Hmm.
consequences of what's going on in their body. And we're really in it for the long game, right? Like we want better nervous system regulation. We want things to function and we want to work as well as we can for as long as we can. And so that's kind of more our approach to it. And so when we're talking about like low back pain too, like there's a lot of different things that can cause low back pain. There could be like, a trauma that you had when you were a kid. You could, I mean, a car accident can cause low back pain. There can be a lot of weakness there. Working out can cause low back pain too, right? And so it really like there's a lot of different pieces to that puzzle. And we just approach it from a like, okay, yes, we have this pain. That's a symptom of something else going on. And we need to figure out what
Hmm.
that something else is.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes total sense, and then with that, you also take the nervous system versus just, like, looking at the muscles or looking at the spine. Very cool. Why is everyone not doing this?
Because we're big
Very,
nerds.
very cool. Okay, where okay, I wanna give everyone so that was kind of their homework assignment to figure out those 2 things if they have pain. But then I'm gonna give everyone another homework assignment of that Darth Vader breathing. So you just, like,
Mm.
breathe in and then, like, like that.
Yeah, it's
Have
like
you guys seen House Bunny?
House Bunny,
Where
like
she
the
does
movie.
ho yeah! Where she does, like, the Darth Vader voice, how that's how she remembers everyone's name, she repeats it, so she go, "Hi, I'm Annie." "Annie." "Hi, I'm Rachel." "Rachel." Everyone listening, if you've never seen that movie, you're like, "What are you talking about, Kylie?" It is my favorite movie of all time, but anywho, I digress. Everyone do a
Yeah,
couple of those Darth Vader breaths, but where
yeah,
can
yeah.
everyone like I said, we'll link to a lot of those videos if you guys are like, "I'd like to learn a little bit more about this," whether it's for yourself, whether it's for someone who's pregnant, whether it's for a kid, but where can everyone find you to follow along more?
Instagram is probably where we're the most active. So, Rise Wellness Chiro is our Instagram handle. So it's Rise,
Mhm.
RISE, Wellness, WELLNESS, Chiro, CHIRO. So that's the easiest way to find us and find all our videos. We do post them all on our website too, which is risewellnesschiro.com. We're on Facebook. We have a YouTube
Mhm.
channel, but you can find really everything you need on Instagram.
Perfect. Love it. Well, we'll link to everything. Thank you guys so much for
Yes, thank you.
answering my billion and five questions. I appreciate it. But this is fascinating. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Thank
Colleen.
you for having us.
Good, right? I hope that you guys loved this episode. And I hope that, like I said, whether you learned a simple takeaway, do that Darth Vader breathing, or whether it was just like, okay, the body is a lot more complex than I thought. To be completely honest with you guys, it's okay if you can't wrap your mind around everything that they said. I'll be honest, I have sometimes a hard time doing that with all the scans. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like what you're saying, sometimes it's just like so over my head, or it's hard for me to understand. They're so smart. And I think that what we can take away from this episode is just wellness is not as straightforward as we think it is, as we're told it is. And it really is so individualized based on so many different things. So, hope that you loved this combo. And if you did, be sure to give this podcast a rating and review. We would love to hear from you. Thank you in advance for taking the 2 seconds to do that. Or if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, please, with your biggest takeaway. And that's it for this episode. We've got another one next week, and we can't wait to see you then. So go have a lovely, lovely rest of your day. Regulate that nervous system, and we'll see you in the next one.